You are everything that's wrong with this city!
I was gonna say the same to you.
Out of all the things that were announced at E3 back in 2016, Marvel's Spider-Man surprised me the most. While it's no secret, a majority of Spider-Man games fail to hit the mark. Not to say that they're all bad. In fact, there have been a few games over the years that have managed to do the character justice. And with the release of Marvel's Spider-Man by Insomniac Games, it remains to be seen if it does whatever a spider can. For those of you who are unaware, the game tells a completely new storyline that isn't tied to an existing comic book, video game, or film, and covers both the Peter Parker and Spider-Man aspects of the character. Following the apprehension of Kingpin, Spider-Man believed that he'd taken down the biggest threat to the city.
Idiots! I'm the one who kept order in this city! 1 month! In 1 month you'll wish you had me back!
However, with Kingpin being gone, this opens up the city to a completely new threat. The story is easily one of the strongest aspects of the game, as it's a story for the fans, featuring references only true fans would understand, and despite some familiar tropes, there's a barrage of new ideas that keep things interesting. The open world is easily the weakest aspect of the game, as it relies so heavily on familiar and repetitive tropes that other open world titles had moved on from, such as the game's inclusion of towers that revealed portions of the map and identified waypoints, a standard that even Ubisoft had abandoned a couple years back and even made a joke towards in Far Cry 5.
Oh, hey, more guys. Welcome to the party. House rules. Leave your shoes at the door. Unless you're not wearing socks, in which case, buy some socks already.
Outside of towers are gang hideouts, which are fun at first but become very tedious shortly after. They typically revolve around fighting through waves of enemies. While the combat is great, you already spend a majority of the game fighting to the point that these hideouts feel like a bit of a nuisance. And in spite of them starting off as a stealth scenario, even if you manage to take down a majority of the criminals, the second wave automatically starts, and they already know where you are, making it fairly pointless to stealth your way through at all. While it's a pity that the game relies so heavily on tropes that other open world titles had moved on from, there are certain aspects about the open world that make it all the more worthwhile, most specifically the game's side missions and research stations. One side mission stars the world's first live streaming supervillain, known as Screwball, in which Spider-Man partakes in a series of challenges before her fans murder a hostage.
Sorry about that, Spidey. I can't help it if my fans get personally invested. They're passionate. Hashtag blessed.
Did you just say hashtag out loud? That's honestly almost as bad as the kidnapping.
While another follows Spidey as he tries to find his doppelganger.
Someone's impersonating me. It could be the chameleon again. I've got to pick up his trail.
Outside of side missions are research stations. While they're simple enough, they offer a fair amount of variety, as they require a slightly different skill set to complete. Whether that be swinging through clouds of smog, or taking control of a spider bot, they all offer some unique mechanics that spice things up. There are occasional distractions like collectibles and crimes that'll eat at you. These collectibles range from backpacks as well as landmarks. Backpacks not only make references to Spider-Man comics, but also offer a bit of backstory to events that previously happened before the game started.
Cool window, but I always get the feeling something strange is going on in that place.
In spite of sticking to Spidey's cast of characters, there are several landmark references to not only New York, but other Marvel comics that work together to build a world that's just as alive as it is breathtaking, so don't be afraid to immerse yourself in the environment. Exploration is all the more beneficial thanks to web swinging. While there's a fast travel option at your disposal, you'll hardly ever use it, as web swinging is an absolute blast, as it capitalizes on the physics-based system used in Spider-Man 2. You can simply swing by holding down the right trigger, change course with the use of a web zip, and target a landing to build up your speed. While it can be mesmerizing at first, traversal can be fairly forgiving, as you don't take fall damage and the game avoids obstacles as long as you're holding down the right trigger, keeping your momentum even when you make mistakes. As you swing through New York City, you'll come across random crimes that range from car crashes to shootouts. While in combat, some enemies are required to be launched into the air to take damage, while others require a specific amount of webbing to be stunned. Some enemies will often use snipers as well as rocket launchers that can take you out from a distance. Each fight gives you a lot of options. You can simply take down enemies by webbing them to walls, or by launching them into the air. The combat is playful and calls for experimenting, as there's more to it than just countering and punching. Outside of being Spider-Man, there are segments where you play as Peter Parker that'll often revolve around tech puzzles that have rotating electrical currents or matching line patterns. While they're not hard, they add a nice change of pace and are quite enjoyable. Marvel's Spider-Man is a game that exceeds expectations, but it isn't without its flaws. It could have done without the towers and gang hideouts. But it's a game that's worth experiencing, especially if you're a Spider-Man fan. Videos like this are made possible by viewers like you. If you like what you see, don't be shy and subscribe to stick around for more.
So, should we kiss now? Yeah, maybe later.